A resume is often the first impression, one that is critical to moving forward in the hiring process. Creating and maintaining a resume that will make the best possible impression is the first step to success in the application process. So, in this webinar, we'll talk about the real purpose of a resume, provide a clear understanding of the key components, and what a resume needs in order to stand out from the stack and get noticed. This is really important. The purpose of a resume is to get you an interview. To keep things real succinct and easy here, each item on your resume should be subject to this one question: will this get me closer to the interview? If the answer is yes, keep it. Before launching into the writing and revising of your resume, you'll want to think about your focus. While certainly ambitious, applying for any and every job out there and hoping that something sticks is not the most effective approach. But having a focus, knowing where this resume is headed and what its primary aim will be, is going to be a huge strategic asset to you as you search. Have you ever heard the expression, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time? This is a good quote to keep in mind here. Focus is key, and it will open doors for you. Some good focusing questions to ask yourself include: what is my ideal company? What title or function do I want? In what location do I want to be? Maybe you have more than one aim or goal. So consider crafting an additional version of your resume to suit that goal each time. Maybe your career has been as an individual contributor, but you've had lots of project management on top of that. It could then be wise to have a resume for both. This is an example of a successful resume, and I'll break it all down for you piece by piece. Here you see plenty of white space. It's very clean, and that's what we aim for when writing a resume. So let's look at each section. First, your name goes right at the top. You want to use the same name you're using across any social media like LinkedIn or even your email signature. You want to put the city and the state below that, but your street address is not needed. And then one phone number that you are most accessible at. This goes for email as well. This is also a great section to include your LinkedIn URL so prospective employers can get a sense of your personal brand, should they decide to actually click on that URL and take a look at it. Of course, you'll also include your experience, but let's look at the summary statement first on the next slide. Right underneath your contact information at the top should be your branding title or your target. For example, human resource professional, or operations and supply chain manager, or retail cashier. Again, the key here is focus. You want the hiring manager or recruiting manager to immediately equate you with the job at hand. If the title doesn't resonate or it's irrelevant, you may even get tossed into that no thank you pile. One key tip is this headline or this branding statement or title at the top. In our example here on the screen, it says mortgage specialist. I actually recommend that you change that to verbatim whatever the job title is that you're applying to each time you use your resume for an application. The applicant tracking system or that online profile where you submit your resume, one of the key things it's looking for is the exact job title. Now, companies get really creative with job titles. Just because you're putting this title, this headline, this branding statement at the top of the resume, you're not saying you currently have this title. You're not even saying you ever had this title. You're saying this is your target title that you're going after. I recommend, again, that you change this to exactly that job title. So just wanted to double click on that. Next, below your title at the top middle section is your summary section. Here, you're going to include a summation of your personal brand. It's a brief statement outlining who you are and what impact you'll make at the company. It might include your overall qualifications that support your professional objective, Things like number of years in your industry, credentials, special training. But a word of caution here is do not use an objective statement. Don't use the term objective or objective statement, and don't make this an objective statement, such as looking for a new opportunity where I can do X or Y. This is a very outdated approach. The employer is looking for something very specific, someone to meet that one need they have. So speak to their wants and think from their perspective, not yours. What do they want? They want to fill this job with the most qualified candidate. Who is the most qualified candidate? You are. So clearly show why that is on a resume. So a summary statement talks about what you offer and what you bring to the position, to the company, whereas the outdated objective statement was all about you saying, here's what I want. So a very different approach. Directly below the summary statement, we're going to put some key skills. These are going to be relevant and tailored to the job you're applying for. Different job, different key terms will be listed. Your task is to get up to speed. Look at news, websites, LinkedIn profiles or groups. Get a solid handle on the most up-to-date keywords. The resume you'll initially create for yourself will be a foundational resume. And by foundational, I mean that you'll tailor it for each job that you apply for. Gone are the days when you can submit the same resume for each job you're interested in. Now you need to comb through each job posting and pick out those key skills they're looking for and integrate them into your foundational resume. You'll also need to look for keywords and phrases and make sure your adapted resume reflects these. Adapting your resume is done for a couple reasons. One, because the hiring manager, recruiter is able to see that you took the time to read the job description and show how you're a best fit. On average, resumes get a 6-second scan these days. And by tailoring your resume, the reader can see how you are a fit for the role instead of having to figure out how your skills meet their needs. The other reason is that when applying online for a job, your resume will first go through that HR software screening program, the applicant tracking system. In the screening program, if it can't pick out those skills and phrases from the job description very clearly in your resume, it will be discarded. So the easiest place to do that tailoring is in this top part of the resume, which is why I encourage you to format it this way. Let's look at a few examples of what some of these summary section statements can look like. So here's an example for an administrative professional. Administrative professional with more than 10 years of experience as an executive assistant, customer service, and office environment. Recognized for effectively managing multiple ongoing tasks to support business leaders and day-to-day operations, and selected for special projects to support operations, sales, and marketing groups, such as developing presentations and coordinating events. Here's an example for a financial manager. Possess 10 years of success in management, driving the vision and strategy to build highly productive teams, strong track record in working in startups, including 3 successful IPOs, deep financial acumen, lending structure and accountability in dynamic organizations, an accomplished background in high tech and financial services. And then here's an example for an IT project manager. 9 years of experience in project management, specializing in complex IT initiatives, manage entire life cycle from gathering requirements through delivery and post-implementation support, track record of securing deliverables of 6-figure projects on time and below budget. If you find you're struggling to kick off your own summary statement, here are some summary statement starter sentences to help you brainstorm. So, offer 10 years of experience in marketing and expertise in finance could then become something like offer 9 years of experience in project management and expertise in SDLC, Six Sigma methodologies, and cross functional leadership. And this method can be used any level role, entry level to CEO, it doesn't matter. Your summary statement will have additional content so you can use the remaining bullets for some similar examples. And again, it's important to stress here that the summary statement is very important. The first half of your first page of your resume is the most valuable real estate because that is where people will look first. So it's your first opportunity to grab your reader. This is where you'll either go into that no thank you pile or they'll keep reading. Don't be fooled into thinking that hiring managers and recruiters are reading your entire resume like a good book. They're not. They're skimming it like a small stone in the lake. In fact, studies have shown that the average amount of time spent on whether to decide to keep reading is only the 6 seconds that we mentioned before. So make every word count because your future depends on it, literally. And then 2 more examples just because it's that important. So, possess more than years of experience example. Possess more than 12 years of experience in roles including database administration, programmer, analyst, and system analyst, or excel in to deliver example. Excels in engaging senior level professionals, managing accounts, and guiding complex sales cycles to deliver multi-million-dollar impacts. And then here are the 5 examples one more time. So these are those starter phrases you can use. Possess more than blank years in roles including successful track record of, excel in blank skills to deliver certain results, offer specific types of experience in this field and expertise in this specialty, and skilled in building and managing teams to achieve, and then you share your achievements and accomplishments. So after the summary section, we move on to the professional experience section. Accomplishments are the most crucial part here. You need to stand out as you're likely going to have competition. So, how do you approach your work as opposed to the other 20 people with similar backgrounds to yours? Your skills and duties are great, but your accomplishments will differentiate you. Accomplishments should be 3 to 6 bullets, approximately in proportion to the number of years you've been there. So, approximately 1 year equals 1 accomplishment, but try to keep it to no more than 6. If you have more than 6, work to prioritize them. Keep it short and sweet. Use the fewest amount of words, having the most amount of impact. Use action verbs to start each bullet, such as increased, led, oversaw, analyzed, and always try to quantify with numbers, percentages, or dollars. How does this sound? I managed a team versus I managed a global team of 20 developers. Maybe you've had a background where you've done the same job duties at 3 different companies. That's great, but what's different about job A, job B, and job C? Be sure not to rehash the same experience over and over. You used Excel at all 3 positions. That's a positive, but how did those positions differ? Bake in that difference for your reader. Then we have your education section. Education summarizes your educational background in reverse chronological order. Start with your highest degree and university. Then comes the option of professional development and training. Now, with your education, for most of us, if the education was achieved, let's say, more than 5 years ago, you probably don't want to put a date on there. Also, once we start getting further than 5 years out, education can go at the bottom of your resume. However, if you've recently achieved a new level of education, that would be the exception where you would put your education above your professional experience. So it's a little bit of a judgment call. You might want to include memberships. So, memberships include different offices and memberships held in professional associations, boards, and community activities that support, again, your target and your objective. Your memberships can show valuable professional experience that goes beyond normal work activities. And again, this information can be omitted if it's not relevant to your professional objective or considered important by hiring managers. And then some other areas to consider. It's possible you have important experience that is relevant to your job objective, but falls in other areas outside of the standard sections. So you can include this kind of information in a separate section, maybe within a title of your choosing. So information in these optional sections could include awards and recognition, credentials, licenses and certifications, military experience, if appropriate, technical skills or areas of special expertise. And then additionally, do not include personal information or hobbies, but do include information relevant to the role you're applying for. So that might be languages, licenses, memberships, or even publications. So here are three types of resumes. Reverse chronological order is the most common and the most preferred by HR and hiring managers. So your most recent experience up top, right on down. Then we have functional resumes. Generally, this is considered the least preferred type. It outlines your experience based on your expertise, not in the order in which you worked those jobs. So, for example, finance, under that, your specific experience highlighting finance. Reasons it's unpopular or can show a red flag to prospective employers is because candidates often have gaps in their work history or a disjointed work history. So, use this sparingly. I recommend this only as a last option. And then we have what we call a combination resume. So this is kind of like the sample resume that we've been looking at. This is with the summary at the top. Just below that, highlights of your experience and bullets of your most important experience related to those specific jobs, and in chronological order going down. The benefit is it allows you to highlight some of those things that might be from a longer time ago while still sticking to a chronological resume overall. So here are some common roadblocks. What if I have more than 20 years of experience? This is important. I recommend that you only include the last 10 to 15 years, maybe 20 years at the most of experience on your resume. To you, the past 30, 35 plus years are very important, and they are. But remember, to a hiring manager, the most important is the most recent. Also, we want to mitigate any potential for age discrimination. So, with that in mind, one other way to tackle a longer work history is to have a full description and accomplishments for your last 10 to 15 or 20 years at the most of experience with the dates, and then have a section right below that titled Additional Experience, where you can list titles and companies or employers without any dates and without a lot of detail. Keep in mind the resume is not a bio, it's a branding document to get you into the interview. Intrigue them enough to give you a call and ask for more. Most professionals need a 1 to 2 page resume max. It's rare for a 3 pager to be warranted, even if you do have 20 years of experience, great experience. If you'd like, add an addendum after the main resume with a handful of bullets that are relevant to the position you're applying for, as long as you're not being redundant. Two other concerns. What if I've job hopped? For this concern, use years instead of months. And use your summary to connect the dots and tell a little bit more of a cohesive story if needed. And what if the experiences are unrelated? So, for this concern, I recommend getting experience ASAP, even if it means just engaging in a volunteer opportunity that will give you resume worthy skills that you can share. Also, in this case, think about your transferable skills that you can highlight, and maybe again, consider tweaking that format a little bit. And then what if I have gaps in my resume? Honesty is always the best policy, but consider filling in a gap by volunteering, consulting, tutoring, be creative, include some of it as opposed to a huge gap of nothing. And what if I don't have any accomplishments is actually another question I get sometimes. You'll be surprised to know that everyone has accomplishments. They just might need to be dug into a little bit more to unearth them. Focus on scope questions first: who, what, how many, where, when. And most importantly, ask others that you've worked with or former managers how they would describe your accomplishments. This can be very eye opening. So let's review some of the do's and don'ts. Do have someone spell check and proofread your resume. Do tailor your resume for specific jobs. Write your resume with the employer in mind, not you. Be creative when it calls for it, and be authentic. Don't use text boxes or tables to list information. This is important. The reason goes back to that applicant tracking system that I mentioned earlier. Applicant tracking systems don't like that kind of formatting, and it might inadvertently end up having the applicant tracking system put you right into the black hole of resumes where no human eyes ever get on it. Don't include personal information. Don't use first person pronouns on your resume. And don't use a whole lot of crazy colors or graphics. Keep it more simplistic and never, ever be inaccurate or lie on your resume. So, next steps is to go ahead and put together that foundational resume and start to practice tailoring it for each application.